Michelle Brandt is a mother, a wife, a community activist, and now a Democratic candidate for South Carolina House District 114, which covers Charleston and Dorchester counties. I speak exclusively with Michelle about why she's running for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Michelle Brandt, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be interviewed by you.
Well, I appreciate it greatly. I'm interviewing you today on Quintin's Close-Ups because you are a candidate, a Democratic candidate for House District 114, which covers Charleston and Dorchester counties. You're also a wife, a mother, and a concerned citizen with a strong heart for service. Who else is Michelle Brandt these days?
Well, I'm still what you said. I'm really active in my community. I love to serve and to give back as much as I can. I believe in if you want to see your community change, you need to be a part of that change. And I serve in various areas in the community. I ran for Mrs. Charleston America 2020, and I advocated for financial freedom. I've worked with Increasing Hope. Actually, when I first moved here, I worked with Dorothea Bernique, and I helped her with her social media.
Yes.
And since then, I continue to serve on the board of directors at my son's school. I'm also the commissioner of the Charleston Parks and Recreation Commission, and I serve as the chair of the Strategic Planning Committee. And I lead monthly food distributions at the Pink House in West Ashley.
And I love Dorothea. I just ran into her a week ago at a banquet in downtown Charleston, and I love Christian King as well as David Bennett. Let me ask you, with that experience, why the South Carolina House District 114?
Well, it started for me when I was early in the pandemic. We were on lockdown, and I really wanted to help as much as I could. I didn't know what to do, but I saw that Charleston Hope was looking for volunteers to help with the food distribution downtown and the projects. So I went there, and as I was distributing food, I came to encounter this older gentleman who I was giving groceries to, and as I went to pass him some frozen eggs, he declined because he didn't own a refrigerator. After that moment, I was kind of struck because it was really hot that day, and I ended up trying to contact my husband to see how we could help him further, but we didn't have the resources at the time. And I know that there are homeless people that live in our area, in our city. So I know there's people that live without so much already, but that moment was pivotal for me. It kind of was the catalyst, and it got me thinking, how many other people live without electricity? How many other people live without refrigerators? And I want to be the change. I want to address the systemic reasons why people live that way. So that's when I decided to run for State House District 114.
What are the systemic reasons right now?
Well, affordable housing is a really big issue all over the country, but especially here in the Charleston area, in my district especially. The wage gap in Dorchester County is the highest in the state at $10, and with Charleston falling right behind at $7. And I myself am a renter, and it's honestly scary. Every time the lease is up, we get nervous because we're not sure if we're going to be able to afford to live here, and we love it here. I live in West Ashley. It's a great community, and I would say that, and also flooding is another major issue here in the Low Country. And I want to think of more creative solutions on how to address that issue in particular. I have an interest in supporting the seawall if I can get funding from Columbia for that, and then another way would be to plant more trees and have more tree canopy, because trees actually help with a lot of the flooding in the area.
And I want to get back to that in just a second, but let me ask you, Michelle, how do you close that wage gap obviously in your district?
Well, one idea I have is by creating a renter's tax credit.
Okay.
To help with that, because there's already one for if you have a mortgage, you get a mortgage tax cut. And then another thing is, what I've read in doing my research is actually cutting down on some of the unnecessary building regulations would help a lot with affordable housing. It's really what we have is a supply and demand issue. We have so many people coming in from other states because it's beautiful here in the Low Country, but the people here that are teachers and nurses and police officers, people middle class, honestly, we're all struggling to find adequate housing for our families, or us as an individual. And so I think that we need to create more affordable housing in order to help everyone be able to enjoy this beautiful place here in Low Country.
And those are some of the issues that I will touch on momentarily here in this particular interview. But you said that obviously you live in West Ashley. How long have you actually lived in District 114?
I've lived in District 114 for 7 years.
Now, how did your relationship begin with the constituents of District 114?
I started to attending a church here locally in my area, and that church honestly has been through so much. It flooded 3 times in 3 years, and that's kind of what got me on to like, okay, what is going on here? Like, is this normal? Is this a part of life? And as I was talking with my neighbors and other residents, they're like, no, this is a new issue, and I know it's something that the mayor and the city council has been working to address as well. Yeah.
Now, what other relationships have you began with those neighbors in that particular area, which is the Church Creek area of West Ashley?
Well, I've planned to attend a HOA meeting, and I have been talking just with my neighbors in general to just see like what are the areas, the needs that need to be addressed, and that's how I've been really connecting with everyone in my district.
Now, what are the last figures as far as population for District 114?
That's a good question. I don't want to just say a random number and it'd be wrong. I think it's about 30,000 people, but that could be wrong.
Now, as you mentioned, a lot of people want to move to Charleston because of the beauty and history, and obviously with the water we have here. What is that pace of growth in District 114 right now?
I don't have that answer for you. I'm not sure, but I know across the street from where I live, they're building apartments. They're going up near the Walmart in town. I know that there is another development down 61.
Right.
It's going to be a huge housing development. I think that'll be Dorchester County. I'm aware of that. So I don't have any specific figures for you, but I see there's a lot going on already.
That's been the most important thing that has changed in District 114 in the past 2 years.
Let me have a minute to think. Is that okay? Can I just kind of meditate? Okay.
Well,
the last few years. Go ahead.
If you look around the district right now, what has changed in your mind?
I would say the flooding has severely impacted this district. It's made traffic worse in some ways, and then it really slows things down for everyone. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and when people come here, flooding is an issue for everyone, and it's hard to try to figure out where you want to live because you don't want to live in an area that's prone to flooding. And I think that has been what I've seen change in the last 2 years. Just more of that kind of anxiety around that.
Well, let me ask you this, Michelle. What's more important for District 114? Building new homes in commercial space, or rehabbing, expanding, and better utilizing the existing homes?
I think it would be creating more affordable housing for people. That's what we need, honestly, and more like multi-family style ways of living. I know that zoning has a lot to do with that, and right. We need those things changed.
Where in the district do you identify, and about the noise in the background, and also develop those unique characteristics when it comes to residential, commercial, and mixed use?
Could you ask that one more time, please?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about the background noise here. Where in District 114 do you identify and also develop those unique characteristics when it comes to residential, commercial, and mixed use?
Well, I think you would have to talk to a planner about that. I think that you would need to do an evaluation of the area to see where we have the infrastructure to support that kind of building, which is also another concern in this area. Um, I know that there have been talks about widening 61, which I think will have a big impact on just my district as a whole.
Okay. Are you in favor of widening 526 right now?
As far as like finishing it and
Yes,
going
ma'am.
into Johns Island,
Exactly right. I should
I
say
know
potentially. I'm
that's a,
sorry.
okay. I know that is a very complicated and complex issue. I have not looked into all the ways it could negatively impact our community. I think that it would definitely help with the easement of traffic flow, but to what extent? You know, what extent would we harm families and communities that have been here for a while? Um, that's a tough one. That's tough.
How would the finishing of 526 impact the environment?
Well, I mean, that would involve some tree removal, and then I haven't looked at any type of flood mitigation or any kind of flooding impacts it would have. Which, you know, no one wants to increase more flooding around here. So I think that if we were to continue and finish 526, that would have to be something like top priority on everyone's mind, especially, you know, when we already struggle so much with flooding as it is.
And I want to get to flooding in just a few minutes here, but you talked earlier about affordable housing. How should Charleston County and Dorchester County create a dedicated funding stream for, say, attainable housing development, do zoning, and other planning tools?
How should the city do that?
Well, Charleston County and Dorchester County create a dedicated funding stream for affordable housing development.
Well, an idea someone ran by me yesterday was they said that, you know, flooding is a tri-county issue. So if there was a way to get, you know, Berkeley, Dorchester, and Charleston County to work together on flooding, and as far as a funding stream, I would imagine some sort of tax revenue stream. But I mean, this is a communal issue that we all have, and I do believe we need to pull our resources together to create something. The issue with creating some sort of trust is who would manage it was the big question. Sorry if you can hear my daughter in the background.
Oh, no worry. She's awesome. Don't worry about that. Okay, well, let me ask you this. How is there a relationship between Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester County when it comes to, some people say affordable housing, some people say attainable housing? What is it? Is it attainable housing or affordable housing in your mind?
I think it's both. I think some people get scared when they hear affordable housing because they just think of just public housing, and that's not necessarily what I mean when I say it. Attainable housing, though, I mean, it's the same thing, just less people know what it is, and that would be, to me, it's providing housing for middle income families like teachers and nurses and even, you know, one income families like myself. So I don't think that it's something that needs to be feared or concerned about, because we all deserve a place to live and everyone deserves a home. So yeah.
So is it workforce housing in your mind?
Yes, that would be a better term to summarize it. There was an article I saw in the news the other day about this woman who's a teacher. She was a single mom and she can't find a place to rent, and it's just like those stories are happening more and more, and it's really sad, which is why I'm running to address this issue and get something done about it.
Now, what is your relationship with Charleston County, Berkeley County, and Dorchester County governments?
Well, I've attended the Charleston County Council meetings. I've watched. I've been a part of the local Democratic parties in those counties, and just learning from what the people that live there say, because I'm not an expert in all the counties per se, but I try to stay active and involved and at least stay up to date on what's going on in these counties.
Now, when you talk about affordable housing, attainable housing, workforce housing, what current public-private partnerships would you be in favor of as far as expanding infrastructure in District 114?
Private, public. Well, I know that there has been talk of trying to create or getting a group of people to create a nonprofit to be the private part of an affordable housing private public relationship.
Okay.
But I learned that there isn't such thing right now. But I spoke with someone about that in housing, and it's something that's being put on the table. I don't know specifically though what organization that would be.
Now, how many infrastructure projects have been completed in District 114 over the past 2 years?
I am not sure. I don't know.
Let me ask you this. How do you help local businesses boost their competitiveness among obviously local other businesses that are coming into District 114?
How could we help local businesses that are bringing their businesses here?
Yeah,
Well, by creating
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
by creating more affordable housing. I mean, that benefits everyone. If people can work near where they live, that'll cut down on traffic. It'll increase their businesses, and it'll help our economy overall.
Now, I know a lot of candidates want the average small business owner to maintain their life's work, obviously, but also pay the employees a livable wage. How many small businesses are there in 114?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
How many of those small businesses provide employer funded insurance to those particular people in those businesses?
I don't know.
Okay. How many people in 114 are actually unemployed right now due to the pandemic?
That's not a figure I'm aware of. I don't know.
Okay, no worries. Where exactly in House District 114 do you want to create, obviously attract and retain jobs?
I would say, well, create jobs. I don't know that my district isn't really where a lot of businesses are housed. It's more residential, to my knowledge. I know that there are a lot of businesses towards 526 headed towards downtown.
Right.
I don't know where you would create more businesses, though. I mean, you'd have to keep in mind all the different impacts of the infrastructure as well. It's just so densely packed towards once you get closer to Charleston City.
Now, what other impacts do you foresee happening in the future with that infrastructure?
Future with the infrastructure of expanding roads.
Yeah, you can talk about just those impacts of infrastructure you just mentioned. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the impacts, flooding is number one. I mean, we're at sea level here, so we'd have to really work with the water. I spoke with the chief resiliency officer of the city, and I know that he's been a part of the Dutch dialogues, and he told me in our meeting that we can build and we can create, but we have to be innovative and we have to be willing to work with how the water moves and flows, not going against it, but working with it. So we'd have to create more, just different solutions and ways to make infrastructure that would make sense for the location and the geography that we have here.
I just got to interviewing Mr. Morris for Quintin's Close-Ups a few weeks ago just to talk about the seawall. It is on my YouTube channel as well. But how do you further limit fill and build construction efforts in areas of District 114 that are vulnerable to future flooding and potential marsh mitigation?
Could you ask that again, please?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about the construction in the background. How do you further limit fill and build construction methods, speaking of which, in areas of District 114 vulnerable to future flooding and potential flood mitigation, marsh mitigation, I'm sorry?
How do you mitigate the flooding impacts of people?
Well, let me ask you basically, how do you further limit fill and build?
Limit fill and build. Fill and build. Okay, sorry, I couldn't understand.
No worries.
I'm not sure how you would limit fill and build. I'm not exactly 100% sure what that is exactly.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Well, let me ask you this. In what ways should the state build, maintain, and preserve an array of high quality facilities and sites in your district?
How should the city build and maintain?
No, the state. Since you're running
How,
for House,
okay.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, okay. I just want to make sure.
No worries.
Well, I know it's tricky as far as like a jurisdiction. I know that there are ways from the state level that you can you can influence the zoning laws, and I would just want to cut back some of the unnecessary building regulations
Okay.
so that more building could happen, which I think a lot of developers would want, and I think it would be beneficial for our city and counties to take advantage of such legislation as well.
And what are the 5 big issues right now in 114 besides flooding and, obviously traffic and then the infrastructure issues?
What are the 5 issues? I think education is a big one. Our schools need a lot of improvement, and one of my other issues would be to reduce the racial disparity in some of the schools that we have here in my district. And by doing that, I believe that we need more school buses available so that all children can take advantage of the great schools that we have in our area. Not everyone has a car, and I think that's something that can be taken for granted and overlooked, that how things are right now with our schools is not completely equitable. And if we're going to do school choice, let's have it be a choice for everyone, not just people that are wealthy. So one of my things is to create some sort of funding to get school buses for all the schools here. Another.
Yes,
ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh no, you go. I'm sorry. There was a delay in there. I'm sorry. Then you got the structure right here.
Okay. As far as the other issues, I mean, those would be my 5. The ones that you already listed with education and just improving our schools.
Let me jump right into, because that's one of the questions I have for you as well. Where is the quality of education in your district?
Where is the quality of education? I would say it's in our teachers, and we need to do more to bring more teachers here. My family and I, we have been so blessed to have really amazing teachers at the school my son attends, but they need help. They need more support. There is a teacher shortage, and I think that if we increased teacher pay, and also if we're able to reduce the class sizes, that would be beneficial for the students and the teachers. I mean, the teachers are really key, I think, to our creating really great schools, and they need more support.
Well, should the teacher pay increase be an average of 5% over the next 2 years?
I would have to talk to a teacher about that. I'm not an expert on teacher pay per se, and I would have to do more research on that. But if whether it's a gradual or like just a large sum number, whatever would help the teachers would be the best thing. Whatever that they would need to be helpful, and also whatever would help them find housing in the area so they can teach and not have a long commute to get back home.
And I know earlier you talked about obviously the reduction that is of class size. Let me ask you, smaller classes would raise student achievement by what percentage?
I don't know the percentage. I don't want to make up a number.
No worries. How much does it cost to actually reduce a class size in South Carolina?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Now, let me ask you this. How should that funding for reducing class size structure, that is, be structured by the state of South Carolina?
For the reduction of class size?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I would need to look at the budget and see where we could allocate those funds. I'm not sure right now where all the funding for different programs and schools is going, but that's where I would start.
Now, have you been able to look at the state's budget for 2021, 2022?
I've started looking at the appropriations bill. The difficulty with that is it's difficult to see how much actually is coming to my district specifically,
right?
Because it's just these big numbers, and I'm like, okay, well, how much of that is going to Low Country?
Speaking of which, let me ask you this, Michelle. What port projects in the state's budget would you eliminate so that certain monies would come to District 114?
What projects would I eliminate?
Port projects. Pork
Pork,
projects.
pork
Pork,
project?
pork
Like,
projects. Oh yeah, the pork projects. Things that are in the budget that are really not helping.
oh,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Sorry, I'm learning a lot as I go.
Oh, no worries.
Um, I don't want to just throw out some random project or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that people have reasons why it's in the budget,
Hmm.
but I would want to look into that and then challenge those reasons. Like, tell me why this is more important than our students' education.
Now, what exactly, as far, and I know you want to tackle education, but else, what do you do on day one if you're elected to House District 114?
What I would do day one,
Yes, ma'am.
I would start collaborating and building relationships with my colleagues and work on affordable housing. I would work on reducing unnecessary building regulations, and I would make it a priority for everyone and get everyone to understand and hopefully see that this is something that we need to address now.
And I know, obviously, addressing now, as you just mentioned, is the seawall. With this seawall, should the city of Charleston just create a sort of multi-layer approach to great infrastructure versus a seawall in general?
You know, the seawall is more of a I can't think of the technical word right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's more of a reactory measure. There's a word for it, and I I think it would be nice to have a multifaceted approach to how we view flooding. I know the seawall is mainly for just storm surge and nothing else, and I do think that we need other ways to address the nuisance flooding, the flooding that we have on a more regular basis. And I think that it should be a multi-level approach that way, but I still do support the creation of the seawall.
What water management plan would be ideal for this in the meantime until we get to the seawall?
Oh boy. Well, I know with KJM, we're working on, one of the things we're working on is advocating for more tree canopy, because
Okay.
trees actually can intake a lot of water, like gallons and millions of gallons of water. And that's one thing that we're losing at a really quick rate here in the low country. We've lost so many trees. So I think that's something that we could work on in the short term and as far as the city is concerned.
And I hope to get you back on Quintin's Post Ups later in the fall so we can talk about some more issues that are going on at the State House. But Michelle Brandt, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Post Ups, and welcome to Quintin's Post Ups, I should say.
Yes, thank you so much. This was great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it greatly.